Hello, team. This is TJ coming back at you from the Own Your Life Network. We're now up to Chapter 9, and Chapter 9 is titled The Sizzle Sells the Steak. Basically, that's napkin presentation number 8. Chapter 9, The Sizzle Sells the Steak. What this chapter is basically about is this notion that because we're in a people business, excitement is created when we get together, okay? That the power in this business is in the association, is in the association. And so the analogy in this chapter that's being depicted here is that it's kind of like building a fire in the fireplace. Building a fire in the fireplace. Okay, it's very, very difficult, as you all know, to build a fire with a single log. Single log, right? How do you start a fire with a single log? It's very difficult, isn't it? Right? Okay, and that's kind of like an analogy to that as far as the business is concerned. Is like, okay, well, if you're sitting at a Denny's or you're sitting at a Barnes & Noble's or you're sitting at home, wherever you happen to be sitting, if you're alone, okay, and there's no one else in the business around you, no one else who is excited around you, right? How excited are you? How excited are you when you're sitting there alone like that? Not very, right? Not very, right? Okay. So now, what happens when you put when someone else comes to the table and you begin to start to feed off of each other's energy? What happens to the excitement level as soon as someone else comes to the table who's excited? Yeah, right? Right? The excitement level goes up, doesn't it? Right? So every time someone else comes to the table, so every time you add a person to the table who is excited, the excitement level, the overall excitement level of the group at the table starts to grow, doesn't it? Exactly. Now, is that something that is important to grasp there? Yeah. And let me tell you why it's important to understand that the power of that is because the business is always built when you're excited. I don't know of anyone that builds this business when they're not excited. Every single person that I know that's having success in the business builds it when they're excited. So the key is, how can you keep yourself excited more often than not, right? Okay? That is by getting yourself around other excited people, okay? So what happens as you continue to add these people? It's like adding logs to a fire, isn't it? So as you add a second log to that first log, is it easier to start the fire? And once it gets started, does it stay lit longer? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Right? What if you add a third log to the fire? What if you add a fourth log to the fire, et cetera, right? Imagine having, 15, 20, 30, 40 logs on this fire. Imagine what this blaze looks like. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's kind of like what our team is creating because we have all these excited people coming together. It's kind of like having 30, 40 people at a meeting. It's like having 30, 40 logs on a fire. And we're just throwing gas at it, right? It just becomes this blaze, this uncontrollable blaze, right? It's pretty amazing, okay? Now, let's talk about this idea of wet logs, right? Because wet logs are kind of synonymous with, analogous to people that are not excited, negative people, right? Okay? So what happens when you put a wet log on a fire, okay? So if you try to put a wet log with a dry log, right, and you try to start that fire, it's pretty difficult, isn't it? Right? It's pretty difficult because you only got one person at the table who's excited, and the other one is a negative person, right? It's very difficult to build a fire that way. What if you had two excited logs, two dry logs, two excited people, and then you put a wet log on that fire? What happens to the wet log? They have no choice, do they? They end up drying out, don't they? And end up starting to burn, right? So guess what the two excited people are going to do for the negative person? They're going to dry that person out, and that person will probably eventually end up getting excited, or they're going to have to get off the fire, right? Take themselves off the fire, right? Pretty amazing. Okay? So as you begin to build this fire, man, and continue to add these logs, right, the blaze just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? That's how you feel. That's how you build a massive organization, is get them together. There's always more excitement in a group than as individuals. Always. Always. Okay? Now, what is a sizzle? What is a sizzle or a sizzle session? Sizzle session is nothing more than two or more excited people getting together to just share ideas, okay? Be it to share ideas as it relates to the business, their dreams, their goals, personal development material, books, CDs, or anything it may be, right? Anything that creates more excitement, right? Is when two or more excited people get together for the purpose of sharing ideas to create more excitement. That's a Sizzle session, okay? So essentially, anytime we get together as teammates in the spirit of getting together and sharing the opportunity with each other, teaching each other, sharing with each other, and sharing it with other people, we have a Sizzle session going on, okay? Absolutely. Absolutely. What else is important about a Sizzle? What's important about a Sizzle is this, is that when you're sitting at the table and you're having one of these Sizzle sessions, right, and you got a bunch of excited people, right? If you do it in a public place, are there other people sitting around you listening, eavesdropping, right? What are they hearing? Your excitement. Is it possible that some of those people will possibly take interest in what you're talking about? Yeah, they will, wouldn't they? I don't know how many times I've had these little Sizzle sessions going on, Barnes & Nobles or, at a restaurant or something like that, even at Denny's, where people have walked up to me afterwards and said, hey, man, that's pretty interesting what you guys are talking about. What is it that you guys do? Right? That person is just that person is just a log asking to be put on the fire. So, we're just going to do it, right, to create a bigger blaze. Okay? So, the Sizzle does sell the steak, and all we have to do is learn how to get together. Association is the glue to this business. You can get together and get together frequently and make sure that we share in the excitement of each other. We can keep this business moving at a very, very, high pace. All right? Much success to all of you. Hey, get together with your teammates and create that excitement. And we'll talk to you next time. This is TJ for the Own Your Life Network.